Anytime?
Yep.
Hello, my name is Chris Boatwright. I live in Multnomah, 3323 Southwest Multnomah Boulevard, Portland, Oregon, obviously. Thank you, counselors, for this opportunity to address you on behalf of myself and my fellow laborers at the Oregon Zoo. In August, I will be 42 years old. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, a recipient of a Laurel Scholarship at Portland State University, a father, and an employee of the Oregon Zoo, and have been for more than 3 years. I am not an exception in any of the traits mentioned before. Most of the people I work with fall into one or more category that contradict some common misconceptions about who does customer service and food handling work at the zoo and for the citizens and visitors to our community. For example, this is not a teenager's job. Many of my peers are in their 20s or older. I am by no means the oldest or even close to it person doing the work that I do. Many of my peers have children. I work with other veterans, some having served in the Delta in the 60s and 70s, some in the STAN in the 21st century. I work alongside people with degrees in biology, physics, geology, and computer science, men and women of color and all spectrum of faith and socioeconomic origin and gender and sexual orientation. We are not slackers in the sense of do-nothing layabouts or the indolent. Instead, we are some of the people who have contributed to the record levels of business and attendance, 1.68 million people last year, if memory serves. These are the people of your community, our community. These are the people who have chosen to attempt to organize in solidarity, not because we wish to harm our zoo, but because we wish to improve upon it and preserve it. While funds, rightly, are spent to improve many other areas of our zoo, the staff who facilitate the daily operations are on a pay freeze that equates to a pay cut due to inflation. We are told that positive comments left by our visitors literally mean nothing because being excellent has no material value. We are denied loans and housing because all of our employment agreements refer to us as temporary, despite some of us having been there for a decade. We are routinely forced to choose between having ends meet or risking spreading illness because we are denied paid sick days, despite that being a public mandate in the community in which we live and work. We work 8-hour shifts at times in facilities that can approach 100 degrees because of failure to repair an air conditioner or provide proper ventilation. And when we summon the courage to petition for this to be addressed, we hear that management had no idea that things were that bad because they work in air-conditioned offices, typically while seated. We are people who are asking for your help in recognizing our right to form a labor union in our workplace. We hope that you will do so without reservation and with full support. But barring that, we are the people who are used to getting things done on our own, and we will do so this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Joshua Wilder. I live, just moved, haven't memorized my address yet. I live at 17246 Southwest Pleasanton Lane in Aloha. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, fellow zoo workers, representatives of Laborers Local 483, members of the public, thank you for allowing me to take a moment of your time today. I'm 26 years old. I have autism spectrum disorder brought on by a condition known as agenesis of the corpus callosum. And I'm a college student majoring in computer sciences. I'm also a temporary seasonal zoo worker. And I've worked there since 2007. Like many of my fellow zoo workers, I do work at the zoo year-round, despite its being a seasonal position. Staffing restaurants not only in the heat of the summer and the freezing cold nights of zoo lights, but also during the often neglected slow seasons in the fall and the spring. And like many of my fellow zoo workers, I am subject to a 1,040-hour cap, which inevitably leaves me and many of my coworkers out of work for weeks or months of the year. And especially during the late spring and early summer, when it's arguably the busiest part of the year there. And we're, not only is this a hardship for myself and other workers that are left off, but it hurts business at the zoo because the other workers there are untrained new hires who have very little experience in food service. Sorry. Removing the hour cap would go a long way to helping the zoo employees in those hard weeks, and also improve service in the zoo's restaurants and other facilities for our guests. I do care about the zoo and our city, and I only ask that you consider supporting our union effort so that my fellow coworkers and I can help you really make the zoo a great place for all of us. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Green, thank you.
My name is Toby Green, and I live at 220 Southeast 154th in Portland, Oregon. I am the organizer who's been working with these workers. According to recent Gallup polls, 1 in 5 part-time, or 1 in 5 workers right now are part-time temporary workers that are actually seeking full-time employment. With the new healthcare bill coming down, it's an expectation that this trend is going to continue, that more and more workers are going to be pushed into this part-time. Reading the CAFR, the Metro CAFR, I wanted to kind of acquaint myself with some of the pressures that the organization's feeling. It's definitely clear that since the recession, Metro has really striven to be responsible financially in terms of how to spend money and do those sort of things. So it's in that light, anytime you talk about union organizing, the first thinking can be, hey, look, this is going to be an exceptional cost. I really want to take this moment to thank Metro management and council for really being neutral and trying to work with us as we go down the process. We did file for a union election back on July 3rd, and we're going through that. A letter, I believe, was delivered that was asking for voluntary recognition. I just want to do my due diligence and hopefully ask again. But I do want to say, though, that there is discussions going on to arrive at a consent election, which will allow the workers to have a straight-up vote, and that's okay, too. But do want to put that asking again. But most importantly, I wanted to use this time remaining to just urge council and management to think of workers like this as what they really are, which is a resource. You hear ideas to improve the zoo? Spend the night with these guys. I mean, they know they have some really good ideas, really positive ideas, and I just really encourage. When I look at the CAFR and I look at different places and I see the word temporary to use, it's always in the context of cost, and that is important. But it's never in the context of resource. And that, more than anything, I gotta say, is driving this organized, is that these workers here, almost 175 workers we're looking to organize here, they want to be thought of as a resource. It hurts them to see other people be thought of as part of the team, and they're not on it. So I encourage council and management to open, you've already opened doors in some areas, open doors, listen to some of these stories. Many workers wanted to be here today, but they're out there at the zoo. They're making elephant ears. They're in the different restaurants. So I encourage you to open your doors up, listen to them, listen to these stories. Again, I reiterate what Josh and Chris said. This is not about busting up Metro. This is about really trying to be a respected part of the team. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm wondering, you want to add management response?
I think, as Toby said, we've had some very productive conversations with Latina representatives about how to move to a consent election so that we can find out. I think you've heard us say before that one of the reasons at management we like to make sure employees have an opportunity to participate is that we've in the past had moments where we recognized groups and then found out that some of the employees didn't wish to be represented. So I appreciated the cooperative working relationship. We're really working on some of these issues on three fronts. We do have an executive session coming up, so I'm not going to give you any of the details. But the three fronts are, remember you asked us to take a look at the various classifications of what we now call temporary employees. And so we're working on a plan to come back on those issues. That is the folks who are really temporary, the folks who are really seasonal, and the folks who are really on call, and trying to segregate those different kinds of employees. We are also working on healthcare related issues because the federal mandate tells us we have to, but also because we know that that's something we want to do as an agency. And then the issue of sick leave has been on the table. And so actually in some ways having them organized is going to make that a more straightforward conversation. So I think I appreciate them coming today, and I think we've had a pretty good working relationship.
And I think one of the things that you'll find in all of our backgrounds as counselors and what we've done in our past life, that there are none of us who are at all hostile to your organization forming into a union. I've spent most of my life dedicated to the principle that everybody ought to have the right to, and if that's their choice. And I think what we're trying to do is to find as straightforward a way as possible to make sure that is your the choice of the workers. And I agree with Ms. Bennett that we found it true in Hillsborough back when I was on the council that the fear that we had that different parts of our organization would organize and form unions went away after a year or two of finding that that was a much more efficient way of dealing with the issues that came up than trying to deal with them helter-skelter. And so I think you find us very receptive to whatever decision you all collectively arrive at in terms of how you want to organize. So I want to thank you all for coming today, and thank you for continuing keeping this issue before us, because we need to make sure we know how it's going.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I guess I spoke for all of you.
You did.
So you could disagree if you want.
Not at all.
So consideration of the minutes for July 11th.